So after many months of planning, I had finally found myself at the obelisk in Milngavie, ready to set out on the West Highland Way. The trail, which stretches from here over 96 miles to its finish in Fort William, had long been on my bucket list, but the excitement I felt was also mixed with a little sadness at a task that lay before me, as you shall see later. As I took those first steps, leaving Milngavie behind, the names of iconic locations of the way were set out beside me, with each of the 96 wooden uprights marking the miles that I would be walking. With the noise of the town centre and its violin-playing busker now behind me, I followed the West Highland Way along a small river before heading into Mugdock Wood, where I had my first meeting with Anna and Emma, two young Finnish ladies who I would encounter most days along the West Highland Way.
Good morning and welcome to my latest YouTube walk. Today and for the next 6 days or so I'm walking the West Highland Way in Scotland, from Milngavie on the outskirts of Glasgow to Fort William in the Scottish Highlands. Like I said, I'm about a mile and a half in now, and so far it's just been pretty steady woodland tracks, very pleasant. Bluebells are out in force, plenty of other wildflowers, the gorse. Stay with me and let's take a walk along the West Highland Way. So we're about 5 miles in now. Track's pretty good underfoot. We're not far from a hill. It's called, and excuse my pronunciation, anyone Scottish that's watching this, Drumgoyak. Today, day one, I think is reasonably flat. It's nothing, no great shakes, just breaks you in nice and easily. So I'm heading for the campsite near Drimmen. Well, that's rather tempting over there. I'm just passing the Glencoyne whisky distillery. Well, I'm just nearing the Beech Tree Cafe. Quite a prominent stop for people doing the West Highland Way. It's around dinner time, so I think I'm going to pop in and get a cup of tea, maybe a bit of cake, definitely a bit of cake. Now I did stop back there and had a bite to eat at the Beech Tree Cafe. It was about 12:30 then, I was getting a bit hungry, and rather than get the stove out, I thought, well, we'll have a cup of tea. I had a jack potato and a scone and lovely food, highly recommend it. Great place to call in at, especially if you've got kids with you. If you just like animals, they've got like a bit of a wildlife garden going on there. So yeah, if you happen to do the walk, call in, give it a shout, support the local business, and enjoy some good food. So since starting the trail earlier on today, I've met a few people that like me are setting off today, and the first one was a young lady called Elizabeth from from America, from Boston, who'd come over with the particular intent of doing the West Highland Way. And then another two young ladies whose names I didn't get, but I keep seeing them, we keep passing each other. And they're from Finland. I've just been talking to an older couple, and they're from America. And there's also I keep passing a dad with his two kids. We keep yo-yoing backwards and forwards in front of each other. And I haven't spoken to him other than saying hello, but he's didn't quite catch what it was, whether he's German or something like that. And I also passed some people that were sure were talking French. I've not actually spoken to one person yet today who's like from this country, England or Scotland. Everyone else has come from miles away. So it's quite a draw from right across the world, which is good.
I arrived at Drimmen camping mid-afternoon, and after checking in and having a look around the facilities, I pitched down at the far end of the site. I was to find myself the only male in this otherwise female-dominated tent city, with both Emma and Anna and Elizabeth, who I'd met briefly near the start, as my neighbours. I only hoped my snoring wouldn't keep them all awake. I awoke to a beautiful morning on day 2 and quickly had my breakfast of porridge and coffee before beginning the task of packing away all my gear. As the solitary farm cockerel strode in, outnumbered by his hens, I couldn't help laughing to myself at the ironic parallel to my own stay at Drimmen camping.
Morning, and welcome to day 2 of the West Highland Way. I'm just leaving Drimmen camping, where I spent last night. Highly recommend that site. Spotless facilities, lovely people that run it, great little setting for your tent, and yeah, if you do this walk at any time, be sure to camp there. Fantastic. So today I've not really got a set point where I'm going to reach, so I'm sort of playing it by ear, but today we should be getting some far better scenery. So I'll press on, heading towards Drimmen. I may nip down into the village just to get some supplies. We'll see. I don't know whether I really need them. I've got enough weight on my back as it is. So yeah, let's get gone.
Shortly after leaving the campsite, the views began to open up, giving me my first views of Conic Hill and the peaks that surround Loch Lomond. Visibility looked good, so I knew I could expect great views over the loch.
Okay, so I've just walked past one of these West Highland Way markers. I noticed a little white stone below. It looks all hand painted. It says go your own way. Okay, I've just had a short stop to put a Compeed on my ankle. I'm starting to get a hot spot on my left ankle. So prevention being better than cure. Doctored that up a bit, that seems a lot better now. I've also took off the fleece as it's starting to get a bit warm and applied a bit of midge spray. I'll be heading into some woods shortly, so they might be lurking in there. So yeah, heading now towards Conic Hill, which probably one of the next times I come back and film some more stuff. So I'll crack on and speak to you in a bit.
Should you choose not to stay at Drimmen camping and wish to wild camp your first night on the trail, I can't think of a better spot than this area within the Garaband forest. I've camped here myself on my third and fourth walk of the West Highland Way, including on my winter walk of 2021.
Welcome back. I'm just on the lower slopes of Conic Hill now. Now, the West Highland Way doesn't actually go to the top of this officially, but I'm going to make a detour and do the summit because the view from the top is quite spectacular. So press on up this path. A good many people in front of me doing the same thing, and come back to the top.
Road, and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland for him. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks on Loch Lomond. 'Twas there that we parted in yon shady glen, on the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, when deep in purple hue the highland hills reveal, and the moon coming out in the gloaming. So you take the high road, and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland for him. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. And the wildflowers spring, and in sunshine the waters are sleeping. But the broken hurricanes, nay, second spring again, though the wavefull may cease further grieving. So you take the high road, and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland for thee. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. But me and my true love will never meet again on on the bonny honey banks of Loch Lomond.
Well, it's 6:20. This was the spot where I wild camped last night. Loch's just down there. I'm just about packed and ready to get moving, aiming for Inverarnon today, spyglass campsite. So I'll get a shower. So yeah, we'll get finished packing and we'll get on the move. Hello and welcome back. Well, I've packed up camp and set off, and just from about the point where I was wild camping last night, the West Highland Way splits into two separate paths. A lower route that skirts along the edge of the loch, and a higher route which is more direct, following an old forest track. I've opted for the higher route. It's supposedly a little bit easier. The lower track skirts quite close to the edge of the loch in places, precariously so in some places I believe. There's heavy rain forecast for this afternoon, so I'm hoping to make good time and try and get to my campsite and get the tent up before that begins. So I'm moving with all haste to spyglass campsite. Well, here's a grand little spot to take in the view. And if you've got time, there's even a little bench to sit down on. Okay, I've just reached the spot where the lower track and the upper track meet. So the track's back as one and we'll carry on. Now that is a lot of bluebells. Okay, we're not far from Inversnaid now. It seems I've picked to do the walk at the same time as the West Highland Way marathon. Well, it's not a marathon, they do the entire 96 miles end to end running it. I've just spoken to one of the runners and they set off from Milngavie last night, midnight, and he's hoping to be in Fort William tomorrow afternoon, which is Sunday afternoon. So we'll look to all of them hardcore people rather than me. But certainly a feat of endurance. The path's very up and down at the moment. It's quite tiring. You're climbing and descending. So yeah, a lot of little rooty bits like that. But we'll keep going, and I'll speak to you again shortly. So there we go, that was Inversnaid Falls, right next to the Inversnaid Hotel. As you can just see, there's one of the runners on the West Highland Way race. There's a few support vehicles in the car park here. Just filled up with drinking water that's just outside the walker's entrance there. There's a little tap on the wall. And so now I've got 2 fresh bottles of water and we'll get moving again.
Once you're past the Inversnaid Hotel, you begin what is arguably the most physically demanding section of the entire trail. For a few miles the trail rises and falls, and you'll find yourself scrambling over rocks and tree roots, climbing laddered steps to bridges and squeezing between boulders. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing that will tax you too much in itself, but the regularity that you will encounter them will slow your pace down significantly.
Squeeze. Smell here of all the wild garlic, really pungent. And it's starting after a few days to see familiar faces along the route. You tend to pass by people, then you stop and they pass by you. And one little group of people, it looks like a dad and his 2 kids. I think they're German. I haven't actually spoken to him other than saying hello. I see they're wearing like kind of charity t-shirts. It looks like they're walking to raise money for Parkinson's. Well, just back there on the tree there was a little like a Ziploc bag with a picture of them in, someone wishing them good luck and saying you've got this. And inside the Ziploc bag there's a couple of bags of Haribo, so they've got a little treat to look forward to when they get this far. I love Haribo as well. I suppose anyone's done that for me. It's based. Just had to come down that, it was a bit awkward, especially with a big pack on. This part of the loch side north of Inversnaid has been continually up and down. It's really takes it out of you. It's not just your own body weight, the weight of all your gear you're hauling up and over. Well, I'm not sure, but I don't know whether I've just said goodbye to the loch. Suddenly come out of the woods, and all of a sudden the loch seems to be behind me, heading out into an open area, some woods ahead. But, be a shame. Been my companion for the last 2 days. But anyway, still plenty to do. Don't know how far I've done at the minute. I think we're looking somewhere like 38. I think by the time I get to where I'm camping, it's just shy of halfway through the walk. It's just starting to rain, so I think the waterproofs might be having to go on shortly. Okay, just arriving at Spyglass campsite, where I intend to stay for the rest of today and tonight. Morning everyone. Well, into day 4. I've just left Spyglass campsite where I stayed last night. I didn't feel much around there or into the lead-in because it's absolutely ticked it down all night. So heading today for Bridge of Orkney, which, should I reach it, will then give me, well, take me to a point of about 60 miles in, I think. I got about 19 miles today. I thought I was about nearly halfway yesterday, but checking the guidebook later, I found it's only about 41 mile in. But everyone who's been doing it yesterday was commenting how tough yesterday's stage was, and it was a real scramble at times along the side of Loch Lomond, up and over boulders and over rooty tree stumps. Enjoyable, but just slowed the pace right down. And I've just been talking to a guy and his son, and they were setting off just before me, and they've done it before, and they were saying today is not a bad stage, pretty flat, a few climbs in it, but we end up following the railway I think at some point. So yeah, should be able to make a good time I think. Don't think there's a campsite at Bridge of Orkney. I think it's just like wild camping. There is a spot near the actual bridge. The rain has just dackered off a little bit at the minute. It's just spitting about, but it keeps coming and going. Heavy rain's forecast all day. So like I say, I don't really know how much I'll get to speak to you. Try and get some interesting bits along the way. All the water courses have swelled overnight with all the rain, so some of those should be quite dramatic. Well, I've just come upon one of the sheep creeps where I have to squat down to get under the railway line. Don't know whether I'm going to have to take my Bergen off, but I'll give it a go just on a crouching sort of walk. So let's see how we get on. Well, that was okay. Being a little short arse helps sometimes. So, I've just come across this honesty box. I think it's the third one I've seen as I've been going along, but it's probably the best and well stocked. So we've got bottled waters, still sparkling and flavoured for £1, cans of juice £1, packets of crisps 50p, chocolate bars 50p. So, I've splashed out, I got some bottle of pop, a couple of Mars bars, and I've just had a bag of crisps, and that should keep me fueled. Pop your money in down there when you've done, which I've already done, and on we go, up that way.
Sadly, on 2 subsequent walks of the West Highland Way in 2021, this little oasis was no longer, and instead had been used as a rubbish bin. Then on my last through hike in April 2022, it had vanished completely.
That's the way we've just come. And the West Highland Way continues for me that way. Through a little area called Strathfillan Wigwams. It's a camping place on the route of the West Highland Way. Really nice, got some of those like little pods, or wigwams as they call them. You can camp there as well in your tent. Great little place. I just stopped and had a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea. First one I've had for a couple of days, cup of tea. I've got coffees with me but no tea. That went down really well. There's also toilets there you can use on the way, and staff were very friendly, very helpful. Maybe next time it's a place I'd consider stopping and overnighting. Yeah, there might be a next time. So yeah, we just passed a little site of an old battlefield, Battle of Dalrig. I'm about a mile from Tindrum at the moment. Whereupon after that I'll be pressing on further down to Bridge of Orkney. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm over halfway through the day's walking. Feet aren't too bad, I don't know what I've said, but since day 2 I've been suffering a bit with my heels. It's not really a blister, just like a rubbing, like friction sort of pain. It's my own fault. I intended buying new socks before I came away, but in the end just came away with some pairs of walking socks of my own that I've had for quite a while, and they were not up to the job really, so my foot's moved about in my boots. I just sort of rubbed a few sore patches. But while I was at Spyglass campsite yesterday, they had some 1,000-mile socks in their camp shop, so I bought a couple of pairs of those. They may as well have been called £1,000 socks for the price of them. 2 pairs of socks, 30 quid. But money well spent. The feet, although still a little sore, they're not as bad as they were yesterday. Bit of news, I haven't really said before, but while there's not really a lot I can film with the weather being the way it is, found out while I'm on the trail I'm going to be a granddad. My son and his lovely girlfriend Ellie. I've just discovered that Ellie's pregnant, and he told me it was the first night I was away. So yeah, I've had that little nugget of information, something to look forward to celebrating when I get back. So yeah, all's good. Right, I'll pop the camera away and we'll crack on. As it says here, the legend is the Loch of the Lost Sword. After he was beaten at Dalrig, Robert the Bruce and his army threw their weapons into this small loch. This included Robert the Bruce's longsword, Claymore, and local legend suggests it lies here to this day. The reality, as you might notice from this map, the Loch Nan Arm is located to the south of where you stand. It is thought this might be the real location of the weapons dump. Why the legend was moved, no one really knows. In July 2015, a team from MacDonald Armouries in Edinburgh came to metal detect the site and local lochans. Unfortunately, they did not find any real evidence for the battle or dumped weapons, so there is still no real answer to the legend of the lost sword. Okay, just reached the Tyndrum community woodland just outside Tyndrum. It's the site of the old lead smelting works. And as you can see, the results of that being virtually nothing grows here. Okay, just reached Tyndrum. And we'll carry on that way. Another of the little Sheep Creek underpasses under the railway line, I think. Okay, just on the outskirts of Bridge of Orkney, 19 miles today. Should be a good phone signal. There's a big cell tower there. So we'll have a walk into the village and see, well, I say village, it's not much of a village here, but and a place to camp. Tiny little fire station. Community hall. hotel. Morning folks, we're on to day 5, which all goes well should be the penultimate day. Camped last night just by a bridge slightly past the Inverroran Hotel. I'd intended camping at Bridge of Orchid, but when I got there the ground was absolutely saturated. No one else was camping there, so I thought I'm going to have to press on, find somewhere else. This is just no good. Been laid in water all night. So I pressed on for about another 3 miles and was beginning to worry. The ground here is so different, especially up on the mills. It's really boggy everywhere, and there was a great spot overlooking Lake Tulla, Loch Tulla, and but again, as soon as you pressed your foot down, water up and over your boot. So eventually I pressed on past the Inverroran Hotel. I called in there and treated myself to a pint of Guinness, and expecting to be another hour or more looking for somewhere, but then just pressed on about 200 yards down the road, around the corner, and there it was. A fantastic little spot. The ground was like a grassy, almost like a little grassy football field. Kept very short. There's a few other people camping there. There was our 2 Finnish friends, Emma and Anna. They were already there. They'd pressed on a bit further than they intended to and camped there the night, so it was good to have a couple of friendly faces to talk to. Hello to you both if you're watching. And so yeah, good night. Windy, rained a bit, but it seems to have cleared up this morning. And we're pressing on today towards Kinloch 11, or Kinloch Leven. So it's a good stretch, about 19 miles. It's 7:25, or it was a minute ago when I checked my watch. So early start, and let's have a look and see how we get on. Okay, about 3/4 of a mile on from where I wild camped last night. Some ruins, an old croft or something, and what would have been a great wild camping spot with a great view over towards Loch Tulla. It's alongside the military road which runs between Inverroran and Glencoe. So right on the way. The surface of these old military drove roads is very hard on your feet, so if you intend walking the West Highland Way and haven't done so before, some advice I could give you is make sure you've got good fitting boots, maybe some good insoles in them, and bring plenty of Compeed or similar brand blister plasters with you, because there's a good chance you'll need it. Today's section is reputedly one of the toughest. It contains the highest point of the walk on the West Highland Way, the top of the Devil's Staircase, and also crossing the desolate wastes of Granite Moor, one of Europe's last great wildernesses. And so far it has been a very, very lonely section. You may have seen at the beginning of this film a dedication for Connor. Connor was a young guy, 21. He was intending doing the walk with me when I did the initial planning for this late last year. He was a keen walker and just getting into his wild camping as well. He was my son's best friend right from them being small boys. I've known the lad since he was perhaps 3 or 4. And he worked with me as well. He was a work colleague. He just found love with his new girlfriend. He'd left home, got his own flat. He just passed all his qualifications to become a firefighter. So much to look forward to. Tragically, one night last December, just before Christmas, he was killed in a car accident. Not his fault, it was just one of those things. And so this walk has been a bit of a tribute to my friend and colleague, and within the contents of my pack, his mum and dad, sister have allowed me to bring a small portion of his ashes along, so he does get to go along the West Highland Way, albeit not as he had intended. Now, they've also asked me to find a nice spot and to leave this portion of his ashes there in a place, a very beautiful place. So I have an idea and a place in mind. The Devil's Staircase, Granite Moor, the least difficult things of my day. So, okay, that was what the dedication at the beginning was all about. Such a long and straight stretching away into the horizon road. I stuck a few tunes on the iPhone just to listen to while I'm walking along. There's no one else about to disturb, so just I'll beat up the miles a bit quicker. Bit of Def Leppard at the minute. Still patches of snow up there on the north face of that particular mountain.
In the autumn of 2018, as myself and Connor began making plans to walk the West Highland Way, one of the things he was most looking forward to seeing had been the section of the A82 and Buccleuch Moor, which featured in the Bond film Skyfall. I decided early on my walk that I would find a suitable spot to lay his ashes within sight of this epic location, Slightly above and just off the way I found a solitary boulder that has since become known as Connor's Rock. In the summer of 22 I returned to the rock and fixed a small brass plaque to it in memory of Connor. Should you decide to seek out the rock, take a wee dram along with you and raise it to my old pal. I know he'd love that.
Just performed the task of leaving my friend's ashes in a nice spot overlooking that beautiful panorama. Very emotional. Okay, I'm going to come off the West Highland Way for a moment here. Arrived at the Glencoe ski centre, and they have a cafe, so I'm going to call up there and have a sit down for half an hour and get a cup of tea.
The resort cafe you see here is the old original one. A new cafe now stands on the site after this one was destroyed in a fire on Christmas Day 2019.
I just made a slight detour, headed up to the cafe at the Glencoe ski resort, and had a cup of tea and a baked potato, which should just keep me going that the rest of the day. Back on the way now, and shortly we'll be having the Devil's Staircase to contend with. Okay, welcome back everybody. We've passed the King's House Hotel and now heading towards the fabled Devil's Staircase. The sun's come out, it's quite warm. I had to get a few layers off in preparation for the climb. A quick drink and we'll see how we go. Way, this is it, on the early stages of the Devil's Staircase. So crossing the highest point of the walk here.
The Devil's Staircase was initially given its name by the soldiers who were part of the road building programme of General Wade. The carrying of building materials up that stretch of the road was not popular, and the name was perpetuated when some of the workers building the Blackwater Dam chose to travel to the nearest pub after their wages had been paid out. For the workers at Kinlochleven, the journey to the King's House Hotel proved to be more difficult than many realised. The journey back was even worse, as unsteady legs meant that many were unable to manage the return trip, and on a cold winter's night the devil often claimed his own. The descent from the top of the Devil's Staircase is long and at times demoralising. Often you can see your destination in the valley below, but just as you think you're getting close, the path will veer off or turn away on a switchback. Despite the unquestionable beauty of the surrounding countryside, including the imposing mountains of the moors ahead, this has to be one of my least favourite sections of the trail. Just outside the village of Kinlochleven, a diversion to the way's usual route led me alongside the old water pipes that run down from the Blackwater Reservoir. Arriving at Kinlochleven, I checked in at the Blackwater campsite. At this small site by the River Leven, you can choose between pitching your tent or staying in one of the site's camping pods or a room in the hostel, although the latter two options are best booked well in advance. Leaving the campsite, I passed by the Ice Factor, which houses one of the largest indoor ice climbing walls in the world. There's also cafe facilities inside which are open to the passerby.
Good morning, just leaving Kinlochleven. The final day, 15 miles to Fort William. Picking back up on the West Highland Way just over this bridge. And let's do this.
As you leave Kinlochleven, the West Highland Way enters woodland, where the trail begins a long and sustained climb of 820 feet through a forest of birch trees. Leaving the tree cover at the top, there are great views back to the village and out over Loch Leven. The trail gently climbs onwards following the old military road before reaching the U-shaped valley of the Larrig Moor. At an elevation of 1,082 feet, this can be a harsh place to be in bad weather.
Hello, welcome back. Well, pressing on, making fairly good time. Still walking down the Larrig Moor, I think it's called, the Great Moor, Big Moor. I've just been walking and talking for a while with a couple more hikers. Did just this stage today. Funnily enough, another two ladies from Finland, two different ones. We were discussing wildlife, and I was under the impression that I'd probably see loads of deer on this walk. You know, thinking they'd be everywhere, Rannoch Moor and that, and they probably are, but I haven't seen one deer all the way. Not one. I hoped I'd see a red squirrel through some of the great Caledonian forests I've passed through. Again, nothing. I saw a dipper on the first day, which is about the most exotic thing I've seen all this trip. And mostly other than that, the usual robins, chaffinches, a couple of buzzards, again on the first day. But, no, it's been a bit of a disappointment as to spotting some wildlife. I thought I might see something a little bit exotic. So anyway, I'll press on, heading towards Fort William, and I'll speak to you again shortly. this little fella. It's been my friend and companion for the last few days, guided me along the way. Haven't needed a compass or a map once. The route is so well marked. Well, I think we're almost there. There's habitation down there. I think that is the outskirts of Fort William. However, the campsite I'm stopping on is just below me, but the actual finish is in the town centre. Yeah, the end is in sight. Okay, we're on the, I think it's the last stretch. We'll reach the road. And it's just a case of walking into Fort William now, past the original ending near the roundabout and on into the town centre. Okay, just past the what was the original end of the West Highland Way and heading on to the now actual end, so this will be about the last mile. Actually finishes right in the town centre now, where there's a bit of a finishing point statue. So yeah, nearly there.
As I strode onto Fort William High Street, knowing my adventure would soon come to an end, it suddenly dawned on me that I wasn't exactly sure where the end actually was, and the further I went without seeing the end point, the more I began to think I had made a wrong turn somewhere. Becoming more convinced I'd taken a wrong turn somewhere, I stopped filming. Carrying on a little further and seeing that the high street was coming to an end, I suddenly rounded a corner and I was there. And awaiting my arrival with a round of applause were my two fellow West Highland Way friends, Anna May and Emma, who had finished a short while before me. I would like to say a big thank you to Anna May and Emma for their friendship over the course of my time on the West Highland Way. Their friendly chat and good spirits enriched my experience and helped me through what would become an increasingly emotional time as the week wore on, and for that I am truly grateful. So, thank you ladies. Also a big thank you to you, the viewers, especially if you've stuck it out right to the end. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed sharing this, my first through hike of the West Highland Way, please consider checking out my later journeys for more in-depth information, especially if you're planning your own journey. Happy trails, and all the best, Carl.